Give it a little bit more. Hope everyone's doing okay. Check, check. A few more minutes. Start in a few minutes at like 2:07, 2:08. I hope everyone's doing okay. Alright, it's about 2:07, 2:08, so we'll get started. So hello everybody, welcome to the Year 2 Offseason Free Agency live stream here for the Toronto Thunderbirds franchise. I appreciate everybody who has made it in. It's so nice to see you guys on. Just going to go through the free agency period here and just get this team ready for Year 3, which will probably be the final year of the franchise of Madden 23 coming out in a few months. But obviously, we won the Super Bowl in year number 2, beat the Ravens 28-21. Had an incredible season, capped off by Antonio Gibson's MVP, just record performance. And I mean, there's not much else to say, but you know, it's not about reaching the mountaintop, it's about staying on the mountaintop. So we have to defend our Super Bowl title. And there's a lot of questions going into this offseason in terms of what this looks like. What's up, man? Denmark, good to see you. Siniak, recognize you. Hope all is well. Appreciate you stopping by. All right, but we'll go ahead. I'll show you the roster. Well, I'll show you retirements first. I did take a peek at the retirement, so I have kind of cheated a little bit, and I know who kind of the big moves in terms of retirements. But don't worry about the coaches. That was just me getting everything ready for the coaching carousel. But we only had one retirement. It was Ndamukong. He retires after 13 seasons, gets his Super Bowl ring, which is kind of unfortunate because I actually did want to bring him back on a one-year deal. But Villanueva retired. Aaron Rodgers is gone from the Green Bay Packers, so that is a big retirement. Von Miller also retires. The reigning, he gets NFL Defensive Player of the Year and then decides to cap it off, despite the Broncos being on the come-up. A couple of other big ones. Nothing too. Devin McCourty retires. There it is. Tom Brady. Yes, Tom Brady does retire. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Green Bay Packers lose Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Yeah, I'd like to stop by. If this gets over and I'm not busy, then I will definitely stop by for OFL later. But Tom Brady, so the Buccaneers need a new quarterback. Eric Weddle, I did recreate him, so since he unretired, but he retires again. Geno Atkins retires, Everson Griffin, Emmanuel Sanders, a couple of big names, Jason Peters, Carlos Hyde, McCourty, I guess twice. The legend Chase Daniel, former Washington player Jerick McKinnon, also retires. Colt McCoy, another former Washington. Richard Sherman decides to give it up. 4 weeks, that is a lot. Josh Norman, one of my personal favorite players from our Super Bowl run. Fortunately, we lost back in 2015, but one of my personal favorites, he retires. Fitz after 19 seasons. Ziggy Ansah. And then here is a list of the other ones. Golden Tate, RG3. So a couple of, pretty big names giving up. Pete Carroll, who wasn't the coach this year, by the way, also retires. So going into re-signings, this is what our team looks like. How's my weekend going? Good. I'm glad you could stop by. Good to see you, Chris. Hope yours is going okay. But obviously, we need a new quarterback. Fitzpatrick did not retire, if you noticed, in the retirees. But I don't know if he's necessarily starting caliber yet. I compared him to the Trent Dilfer of the team when the Ravens won the Super Bowl. That's kind of what he was to us. But don't think he's quite starting caliber yet, so we'll see what happens. A lot of good players retired. Exactly. There's a lot of them. Antonio Gibson, obviously, what would we be without Antonio Gibson? McLaurin, Samuel Brown, and Zay Flower. I think we have a good wide receiver core, so I'm not really worried about that, although I would look out for this in this free agency live stream, hint. Logan Thomas, I think we're okay at tight end. Maybe you could get, I like Logan Thomas. I don't think we're looking to necessarily upgrade him, but if there is a better player, then yeah, sure, why not? I think we do need to improve the left tackle spot. Donovan Smith is getting older. He is actually below us. He's a 69 overall, and he is under contract this year. But I'd like to maybe get an upgrade there. Same thing, left guard, Eric Flowers. He is not necessarily a 75, he is a 73, but I do have his replacement on the other side. Chase Roulier, he also is a 78, and he went down in dev, so he's now normal dev, as you can see here. Lost his dev trait, so that's kind of unfortunate. Brandon Scherf is still our right guard. Here is his, so he actually didn't regress. Big for us. We also have Emile Eckhardt Jr. He is our star dev guard that we drafted last year. I think I'm going to move him to left guard this year and replace Eric Flowers. Right tackle, we saw Mitchell Schwartz, who did not retire. And he only went down 4 in his pass blocking, which is a little unfortunate, but still a good right tackle. Ioannidis, free agent. Our defensive line was so good, but I don't know if we can keep all of them. We have Allen. Duron Payne's also a free agent, so it's really going to come down to if we want to keep Duron Payne or if we want to keep Matthew Ioannidis. I don't think we can keep both. Montez Sweat has really breaked out. Yamin Davis and DeMarvion Overshown, great linebacker depth in my opinion, and Chase Young, phenomenal off the edge. In that corner, remember we got superstar Kendall Fuller now. I'm glad he was actually able to keep that superstar. He also did not regress at all. William Jackson is our second corner. He went down 3 in man, 2 in awareness, 1 in press. So this is what his ratings look like now. Still a very, very good corner. So I think our corner depth is okay. Herndon and Yadam. So have Cameron at free safety. Strong safety, Landon Collins. I want to see his regression. Okay, so he actually did get hit. Minus 18 points as he lost 1 hit power, a couple to injury, play rec, and stuff like that. Here's what his ratings now look like. And then at kicker, we have Blankenship, Tress Way. In draft picks, we do have an extra first this year thanks to our trade last year. What was our record? We went 13-4 and won the Super Bowl. So we're actually looking to defender title. And here is Fitzpatrick's regression, by the way. He took a ton. 2 on the run, 2 throw power, accuracy short, deep, under pressure 3. So, yeah, he took a pretty big step back and is now the 45th ranked quarterback. So I think he's a good backup, but we need to replace him. So that's what our team looks like. And we'll go ahead and look at the players who are free agents. And if you see, we only have $47.5 million in cap space, so don't have a ton. That's also taking into account our rookies. And here's who we have as free agents. We have a couple of ones at the top. As you can see, a lot of reserve players, but this is the big one, Terry McLaurin. I want to get Terry McLaurin re-signed. Haven't done it yet. He wants 4 years, $78 million. Haven't really given him that yet. We still have the franchise tag, but we have one more chance. Duron Payne now wants 3 years. He actually wanted 4 in the regular season, so that's kind of nicer for us. And then Matthew Ioannidis. So the big 3 for us is McLaurin, Payne, and Ioannidis. Cole Holcomb, a nice reserve linebacker, is also free agents. Fitzpatrick as well. Backup left guard, and then some other depth pieces. So we don't have too many in terms of free agents, but I do want to get Terry McLaurin signed, and so we do have $50 million in cap if we sign Terry McLaurin. But before I start resigning players, I do want to make one roster cut in terms of salary space. By the way, what was your Rams record? What's your? I'm 6-3, so I'm actually doing pretty good over there. But Landon Collins, taken a step back. I really have liked Landon Collins in this series. He loves to force fumbles, but he is regressing. You know, he used to be a star dev. Now he's normal, ranked 33rd. And if we cut him, we save about $14 million in cap space. Now, that's not saying I'd like to re-sign Landon Collins later, but I think right now, in terms of a financial position, I think maybe cutting Landon Collins would help us out in the long run. Plus, we have Derek Forrest, who has been in the league for 2 years with Cincinnati. I'd like to see him, get a chance in year 3. Actually, hold up, before I go any further, so I can avoid any copyright stuff, let me turn down the music. Sorry, should have did this before we started. But hopefully I don't got to edit that out later. But so let's mute all of the music. Hopefully I don't have to cut out some time because of that. But yeah, back to the task at hand. We're going to cut Landon Collins. I know he's meant a lot to this team, but I want to save the money. I want to give Derek Forrest the chance, and it will free us up some cap space, and we might be able to sign him later. He's actually only a 74 overall with the 3 in boost, but we're going to cut Landon Collins. That is our first big move. Landon Collins is released. So maybe strong safety is a position we need. All right, but let's go ahead and hit the renegotiation market. And I do want to start off with one of our big 3 between McLaurin, Payne, and Ioannidis. And I've been thinking about this for a while. And one thing, I do have a house rule here where I need to let 180 overall player test the free agent market. It's part of my armor sword sliders that I got off of Operation Sports. So I got to let one of these 3 players test the open market because these are the only 80-plus guys I have. And I think the one guy I'm going to let test is Matthew Ioannidis. He is 25. He is, yes, probably been our best pass rusher of the series. As you can look at his stats here, 16 plus sacks in the past 2 years. But, he is getting older. He wants a 2-year deal, and I have to let one player test. So I think I'm going to let Matthew Ioannidis test. We can always bring him back, but just to keep it fair, just to keep it more balanced, we are going to let Matthew Ioannidis test the free agent market. All right, so now back on to our other players. We're going to go after, obviously, Terry McLaurin first. McLaurin had a really good year for us. He was our top red zone target. 10 touchdowns, over 1,100 yards. Probably arguably his best season with Toronto after a pretty down year last year. And Terry McLaurin wants 4 years, $78 million. So not cheap. And if you look at his ranking-wise, he is about a top 10 wide receiver. and he wants to get paid 4 years, $78 million. So let me pull up my calculator real quick. Let's see where that would put him in terms of, over the cap and where people are. So 78. Let me get my calculator out. Let's see, 78 divided by 4, that would be about $19.5 million per season. And that would put him 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, that put him about 12th. Top 10 receiver nowadays, and how the market has exploded in real life, he'd probably be making about $20 million a year. So about on par with that. And I think after his season, I think we're willing to give Terry McLaurin $20 million a year. So actually, now that we have the cap space as well with the Landon Collins move, we're going to give him that $20 million. So let me see what kind of contract I like to offer him. We'll boost him up a little bit, boost his salary, and boost his signing bonus. So we're going to offer him 4 years, $80 million just to be our number one receiver. He's earned that contract. The early 2000s, yeah, that is pretty old. I like to use my iPhone 8. Yes, I still have an 8. And Terry McLaurin will not accept the contract. I would like to play for a new team next year. So despite $80 million, Terry McLaurin rejects our contract. So that's kind of big. Right off the rip, don't get Terry McLaurin. And a franchise tag will cost us about $22.8, which I think is probably the move. I think we should tag Terry McLaurin. I want him around for at least one more season. And so let's just go ahead and put the tag on Scary Terry. So Terry McLaurin is coming back, but he doesn't get the extension. He wants to play for bigger money, but we tag Terry McLaurin. So that's our first big move. 1 year, 22.8, which is only $3 million more than what we were going to give him this year anyway. But still, that's a pretty big switch. I thought he'd accept that contract. Let's go to the beginning of our list, starting off with J.D. Mckissick, who wants 2 years, $6 million. And, he hasn't really done much in this series. Only had a handful of carries, caught a couple of passes. 2 years, I don't really think is worth it, in my opinion. So we are going to let him test. I would be interested in bringing back Mckissick in the free agency or the preseason, but Mckissick will test. He is taking a step back, our original slot receiver. How have I been? I've been doing pretty good. Hopefully you have been doing good as well. But, in terms of slot receiver, he has taken a step back. He wants a 3-year deal at the age of 30. Yeah, I don't want to give Adam Humphries a 3-year contract, so he also will test. James Proche, another just kind of reserve wide receiver, going to let him test as well. 3 years for, a guy who barely makes the roster? I don't think so. Jonah Williams, a backup defensive end, only wants 1 year and less than $1 million. For these kind of contracts, I don't mind giving them. I mean, there's no guarantee money here, so there's really no penalty with going after these kind of guys. So we get Jonah Williams back. LJ Fort, a linebacker who looks like he has also taken quite the regression. I've been doing college finals. Well, good luck on those. As I know, I remember my days in college, late nights. Hopefully you're doing okay with that. Hopefully they go pretty well. LJ Fort just kind of falling off in terms of age, so we're not going to let him get a contract. Spencer Pulley, a reserve center. Let me think about this one for a second, because he only wants $1.5 million. And, honestly, I feel like for a reserve center, that's not too bad. Obviously, Chase Rulia did drop his depth traits, and Spencer Pulley, looking at his ratings real quick for a reserve center, it's not really strong anywhere. So, yikes. But for a reserve, how much cap space do we have left? Let me go back. I'm trying to look through my notes too. Because I took some notes on who our free agents were and just who I would maybe want to offer a contract to. We do have $36 million in cap space. And a 1-year contract, don't think it'll really do too much. But with those ratings, not going to give Spencer Pulley a contract either. So far, a lot of turnover after winning a Super Bowl. Trevor Penning, Reserve left tackle, not the Trevor Penning you see in real life. He is only a 59, so we're going to let him test. I wouldn't mind bringing him back later as well. And then we have Duron Payne, 3 years, $40.6 million. Another kind of big-time contract. And honestly, Duron Payne hasn't done overly that much in this franchise. Only a handful of tackles. He definitely kind of unlocked himself a little bit this year because of the switch to the 3-4. He was more of a run stopper, saw the field a little bit more, did bring in 4 sacks. But he's only 26, and he actually is rated pretty highly. In terms of defensive tackles, he is a top 5 defensive tackle. And what kind of money does he want? He wants 3 years, 40.6. And if we gave him that contract, we would have about 25 and a half left. So he wants about 13 and a half per season. Ooh, this is a tough one because I do like Duron Payne, but also realize that we need to leave some money left over. But I do want to bring Duron Payne back. Only 26. This would keep him tied to 29. Probably not going to see some regression for a couple of years. So I'm going to just give him about $5 million. We'll give him let's give him a 3-year, $42 million contract. So let's see, 42 divided by 3, that's about $14 million a year. Actually, I'll do 41.5. We'll give him $41.5 million. See if he accepts this. And okay, Duron Payne gets brought back on a 3-year deal. So we did lock up our 2 big ones. Terry McLaurin, Duron Payne are coming back, but that does kind of strict us a little bit cap. I don't know if we're going to be able to bring back Matthew Ioannidis now. Cole Holcomb, a reserve linebacker. I like Cole Holcomb. I think he's performed when needed. He actually went down. He actually got started and went back down. He's actually a pretty good linebacker for 2 years. This will put us at about $21 million. I just don't know if I want to give him that contract. I like to bring back Cole Holcomb, but we are strapped a little bit cap-wise. And he only has 68 zone coverage for being a pass catcher. But I think we're going to let Cole Holcomb test. We'll see how his free agent market is. If he doesn't get any interest, we'll bring him back. But Cole Holcomb will test the market as well. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I am going to let test. I would be interested in bringing him back as a backup. But Fitzpatrick, we're going to say not interested. Wes Schweitzer, another backup lineman. What's his ratings? He has pretty good ratings for a backup. In terms of our guard spot, too, is also a little weak. So do we want to bring back Wes Schweitzer for a 1-year deal? I am going to give him the 1-year deal. So we'll see if he accepts, keep some guard depth. Okay, so we did bring back Wes Schweitzer. How's the teaching been? We only got 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and I cannot wait for the summer, to say the least. Nathan Shepard, a backup defensive lineman. We are also going to let him test. Don't have any interest in bringing him back. Josh Jones, I did sign him later in the season, as kind of a reserve strong safety. I like his game. I feel like he has a lot of similarities in Landon Collins. So for a cheap, 1-year free contract, we're actually going to give him it. Oh, well, he's actually going to test. Well, never mind then. Sinio Clemente, we're going to let him test. He's getting older. And then Alec Jackson, we're also going to let him test. So only made a few moves, a couple big ones. Ioannidis is going to hit the free agent market. We also didn't bring back Cole Holcomb. Ryan Fitzpatrick is also a free agent. We did bring back Duron Payne. We franchise tagged Terry McLaurin, but we had to franchise tag him. He declined the 4-year deal. Let's take a look at some of the other moves around the league. We released Landon Collins. Then also what I did on my own to keep it kind of realistic, I had, where's it at? Maybe I didn't do it yet. I had the 49ers release Jimmy Garoppolo just to kind of keep it with where we are in line today because he's kind of regressed a little bit. We'll see if he's actually on the 49ers. If he is on the 49ers, I might have to fix that. So we'll go over to the 49ers. Oh, no, they don't have Jimmy G. So I did release Jimmy G from the 49ers. So he is probably one of the bigger free agents on the market in terms of quarterback. But in terms of re-signings, looks like any big names get the last-minute re-sign. Jawan Taylor got a 4-year deal with the Jaguars. He re-upped. Nobody really stands out as a guy who's going to hit the market that I was looking at who ended up re-signing us. Now we're back in the regular season. But that does it for the re-signing phase. Let me go ahead and save. And we'll go to free agency. And we have about $23 million in cap space. So on to free agency. All right, so let's take a look at the free agent market. We got $23 million in a cap space. And here's what it looks like. At the top, there is Quentin Nelson, the left guard. That's a big, big number one. J.J. Watt's also a free agent. Kareem Hunt, Zadarius Smith, Rodney Hudson, Matthew Ioannidis, who is drawing a few interests, so we probably won't be able to bring him back. Mecole Hardman, Kyle Fuller, Juan Thornhill, Josh Lambo. There's some pretty good free agents in this class, but obviously the two big ones, J.J. Watt and Quentin Nelson, probably can't afford them, especially since they are demanding big money. In terms of quarterback, Matthew Stafford is actually a free agent. That was kind of interesting. I didn't know he was going to be a free agent. Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, Jimmy Garoppolo, Cam Newton, Gardner Minshew. Not a lot of quarterbacks getting interest. Drew Lock, Marcus Mariota, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. But obviously, we need a quarterback. And honestly, this is going to be the big thing of the offseason. None of these guys are really doing it for me. You know, Matthew Stafford does have some familiarity with Sean McVay at LA, so maybe later we re-sign, or we can go after Matthew Stafford, but not for $13 million. He is 35. Sam Darnold, no thank you. Daniel Jones, no thank you. Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe, but no thank you right now. No Cam Newton. None of these quarterbacks are really doing it for me. So this was the big storyline. I would say draft a QB. I thought about the QB in the draft too, but this is kind of the big storyline that I was kind of planning for this offseason. Now, obviously, we need a quarterback, and one of the storylines this year was the Seattle Seahawks. Last year, or 2 years ago, the Seahawks went to the Super Bowl, and they lost in the Super Bowl to the Chiefs. And if you remember a couple of years ago, Russell Wilson, a little disgruntled with his play in Seattle, actually asked to go to a trade. Well, he stuck around last year with Seattle, and Seattle was really bad. They have, I think, like a top 5 draft pick this year. And, Russell Wilson, 32 years old, or 34 years old, 92 overall, still a superstar X factor, and only went down 9 points, and he's still a top 3 quarterback. Well, just like in real life, I don't think Russell Wilson is very happy in Seattle. And he named a few teams a couple years ago that he wouldn't mind going to. In real life, he went to the Broncos. Well, the Broncos in this series have Spencer Rattler, so I don't think they would be very interested in bringing in Russell Wilson. Other teams that he named the Chicago Bears. He wanted to go to Chicago. Well, they have Justin Fields. I don't think they're really interested in Russell Wilson either. He also said the Cowboys. If you remember, the Cowboys have Dak Prescott. And I don't think the Cowboys would be very interested in trading for Russell Wilson either. Another team he said the New Orleans Saints, which 2 years ago might have been okay, but they're coming off of a offensive rookie of the year season with Malik Willis, who is now a superstar. So I don't think they'd be interested in Russell Wilson either. The last team that said Russell Wilson said he'd like to go to was Vegas. And Vegas actually makes sense. They have right now Derek Carr, who is 32, 77 years old, still a star dev, but hasn't really been lighting it up with Las Vegas recently. Last year was one of his worst years, only 19 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 3,400 yards. Obviously the Raiders in this series have gone through a change. No more John Gruden. They have Don Martindale coaching out there, a whole new scheme, and I don't think Derek Carr has really fit. So it makes sense, in my opinion, for the Raiders to trade for Russell Wilson. Now, I'm not going to do that trade on stream, but just know at the end, when you watch the recap a couple days from now, the Raiders will be trading for Russell Wilson. So, what does that mean for Derek Carr? Well, in this series, if you know, our offensive coordinator is Greg Olson. We got him after year one. I like to use real coordinators. Well, Greg Olson was the offensive coordinator of the Las Vegas Raiders. So, wouldn't it make sense for a team that's coming off a Super Bowl, wants to still win now, wants to defend their title, to go after a veteran quarterback in Derek Carr, who somebody, our offensive coordinator, has familiarity with, especially since the Raiders are getting an upgrade in Russell Wilson. He's only on a contract for 1 year, so if the Derek Carr experiment doesn't work out, then, well, we can kind of dump him after one season. So, the big move in terms of quarterback, we are going to trade for Derek Carr. Now, you can think how you want about that, but I think it makes sense from a storyline perspective. I think it's realistic, and I don't want to shortchange the Raiders. So, what I was thinking about offering, I think I'm going to offer them, they need wide receiver help. They actually don't have, if you look at their wide receiver depth, they have Odell Beckham, who's still a top-tier wide receiver, and they do have Bryan Edwards, who's 24-73, but they are weak. And we actually have a good bit of surplus at wide receiver. We have Terry McLaurin, who's coming back on a one-year deal. We have Curtis Samuel, who I talked about trading in the season recap. But we also have De'Ami Brown and Zay Flowers. And Samuel is 27, but I think the player that makes sense for the Raiders is De'Ami Brown. He is 23, only been in the league for 2 years, still on a rookie contract. I think the Raiders, could use his kind of game. Plus, Samuel has a hard time staying healthy, and he has a cap hit of $10 million. So I think the Raiders would actually be more inclined for De'Ami Brown. So despite me liking De'Ami Brown, you got to give up players to get who you want. So I think De'Ami Brown, we're going to offer him to the Raiders, and we're going to see what a third-round pick does. I don't know if this is going to work, but I think this is a pretty fair trade. De'Ami Brown and a third-round pick for Derek Carr. And we offer the trade. Oh, it's not even close. Wow, so I got to offer actually a lot more for Derek Carr. Well, let's try. Let's go a second-round pick and a future 4. Yes, this seems like a lot, but when you got to trade for quarterbacks, it makes sense. Okay, that's better. We're going to offer, we'll see what a 3 does. De'Ami Brown, a second, and a future 3 for Derek Carr. No, it does not work. How about De'Ami Brown, a second, and another for 2 second-round picks, a second, and a future second. That still isn't going to do it. So now I got to get a little creative here. Let's say we get, well, that's really all I was. I wasn't going to give up a future 1. Well, maybe I got to do De'Ami Brown in a future 1. I would be willing to do this. De'Ami Brown and a future first-round pick for Derek Carr. It seems like a lot, I know, but for a team wanting to win the Super Bowl this year, I think it makes sense. So De'Ami Brown and a future 1 to the Raiders for Derek Carr, and we get it to work. So our new quarterback going into next season, we didn't have to sign him. Instead, we traded for him. It is none other than Derek Carr. Yes, we gave up a pretty penny for him, but, we are in win-now mode. He is still a star dev, still in pretty good moments of his career, still technically a top 20 quarterback, top half of the league quarterback. So Derek Carr going into year 3 will be the quarterback of your Toronto Thunderbirds. So that is the big thing. Who's going to be quarterback? Well, we figured it out. Plus, he's a 79 overall. He's actually just taken 2 because of morale. But it's also $14 million in cap space, so we did just lose a little bit in that regard. Now we only have $9 million in cap space, so we're not going to be able to do a lot in free agency. But let's see what we can do. Let's see, quarterback, we're now fine with. Running back, we don't need a running back. Wide receiver, I still think we're good with wide receiver. Plus, there are a couple wide receivers that I like in the draft. So we're not really going to go after a wide receiver. Tight end, We could. I don't really like the tight ends, especially the big ones. I think Logan Thomas is okay. Left guard, I did want to replace left guard, but we can't afford Charles Leno. We can afford Andre Dillard, but for 2 years, 71 overall, I'm not really trying to get into a bidding war. Solid trade, to be honest. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I try to keep it realistic. Yes, we might have given up a lot, but you can't always fleece. I don't like to always fleece the CPU. Draft this stream now. Not going to do the draft this stream. I just don't really have time for it. Plus, I like to do the draft in periodic episodes over a 3-day span, just like they do in real life. So you'll see the draft probably in a couple weeks, but no draft this stream. I will show you the prospects, though. Left guard. We don't really need a left guard, in my opinion. I'm going to move Emile Eckhardt Jr. over there. So Quentin Nelson, not going to go after him. Can't afford him anyway. Center, 1 year, can't afford Ronnie Hudson. There's nobody that really jumps off the page. Like I said, I mean, we're kind of salary cap strapped now. We don't need a right guard. Don't need a right tackle. Left end, we do need a left end. We lost Ioannidis, and J.J. Watt would be nice, but we can't afford him either. So I think we do need to go after a left end. There's nobody, though, that really jumps off the page. So one of our biggest strengths last season is now somebody we have a hole at, and that kind of is what happens when you can't afford everybody. And there's really nobody that leaps off besides Watts and Ioannidis. There is Olivier Vernon. He makes sense scheme-wise, a power rusher, decent speed, still a top 10 or top-level player. So maybe we go after Olivier Vernon. Only wants 1 year. Olivier Vernon, I wish it showed you their stats, but Vernon last year, I wish I had it on my phone, but he's played for the Cleveland Browns. And, veteran, could bring him in on a 1-year deal. I think that might make sense, but I'm not going to give him $5 million. Obviously, we can't really afford all that. But do I want to bring in Olivier Vernon? We'll come back to him. Let's see who else is available. Dedrick Wise, a 1-year cheaper option for only 3 years, or $3 million less, and he's younger. Probably not a better overall player, but nothing really there. We could bring in D Ford. He's got good speed. He's decent power. He's not going to help out a lot in the run game, but he's got better pass rushing moves, and Matthew Ioannidis honestly was a very big help in the pass game. So maybe we go after D Ford. Can get him from San Francisco. Zach Allen. Nobody really jumps off to me. So I do think I like D Ford. We can get him for about 2 years. I think that's pretty good money. Saves us some money. Gives us a veteran who has some potential. So let's actually go after D Ford. I'm actually going to give him a little bit cheaper. We'll say 1 year, 2.5. I think that's pretty fair. I would say Ford. Yeah, I think D Ford is a safe play here. He fits our scheme, and he's a lot cheaper. Plus, we don't have the money, so we're actually going to get D Ford a contract. Defensive tackle. I think we're set here. We could use some depth, but you can always address depth later. And we're okay with Jonathan Allen. We're okay at linebackers. I would say Bobby Wagner would be enticing, but he's not the same Bobby Wagner. I think we're good at right guard, or right outside linebacker. Corner, we're okay at. I think we're actually pretty deep at corner. I like Trey Herndon, and I like our top 2 corners. Free safety. Strong safety is Justin Collins, or Landon Collins. No, he's not getting any interest, so I think maybe later we could actually go after Landon Collins. But right now I'm actually going to keep still at strong safety. I'm actually not going to do a lot of big moves. We only have one player we're really going after. This is the first time I've seen your Thunderbirds franchise. Well, I appreciate you stopping by, man. Hopefully the fireworks early you've liked seeing. But we're only going to go over one player in terms of who we're going to go after. But I will show you the scouting, who is on the scouting. And we are using the real draft classes, real players. I got these off. And Bryce Young is the top target. So teams looking for a quarterback, Bryce Young is the guy. In terms of the players that I like, these are the players that I like on my draft board. And I have another couple of wide receivers at the top. Jordan Addison out of Pittsburgh is a late projected early first talent, so we could get Jordan Addison. Yes, I'm still using the old draft class system, or the old drafting system. I started the franchise before it. Plus, honestly, I kind of like it better than the new updated drafting setup. I think it's a lot more simpler. Yes, it's almost too simple, but it saves me, honestly, a boatload of time other than going through prospects. But I like Jordan Addison, and he got a 7.8 at the combine, so that's pretty impressive. George Pickens, somebody I'm targeting as well. He can also help out in that short game. Not as fast, but, strong hands. Bijan Robinson, not really interested in a running back, but, if you were interested in a top running back, there is Bijan Robinson. Will Anderson, I think, could also help us depth-wise if we decide to go with him, but he probably won't be available because we have the 16th pick. Kelly Ringo, another good corner. Put him at the top of the class. Don't be interested in seeing him go. Tank Bigsby out of Auburn, another guy that I like, but I'm not really interested in drafting another linebacker or halfback. Left guard Peter Sokoronski out of Northwestern. He checked out pretty good. Got good feet. Not as strong, but we do have some depth issues on the offensive line, so I think going after him might not be a bad idea with our first round pick. Jordan Whittingham, A+ in the short route running, a late second round projected, so we can get him at the back half of the first round. Didn't have anything that stood out at the combine, but A+ short route running, I like that. What was your record the first year? We went 10-7, but lost in the second round, so we were able to make some improvements. Marvin Mims, if you wanted to wait on a wide receiver, early third round, A- spec catch, late first round talent. This is why I was, okay with trading away De'Ami Brown. There's a lot of good wide receiver depths in this draft class. But here's the guy that I'm interested in this draft class, Jamie Robinson out of Florida State, projected 5th round, late first round talent, steal of the draft, which is another reason why I'm not going after a corner. If we can land Jamie Robinson, that'll help us. What's going on, Box Luke? How you doing? Glad you could stop by. Welcome to the stream. Another linebacker we like, Henry Toto out of Alabama. Good quick speed. Maybe somebody we can target later. But these are some of the who we are going after in terms of my board. In terms of top players, here is who is the top players in the draft. But I got some scouting points. Another house rule, I know I'm talking a lot, but another house rule I have is just to keep the draft from just going around and just scouting for the top letter grade and just moving on. Outside of the first round, I always start off by scouting just scheme fits. I feel like a lot of teams are going to look for players that go after them. So, in the later rounds, all I got is my scheme fits. Once you get to the day 3 picks, you're just looking for players who you can put into your system and who can help out. And so I only go after scheme fits. That kind of just helps me from also just kind of cheating the system, going after some top players. But I have gone after all the scheme fits, so now I'm just kind of looking at players who did pretty good at the combine. For instance, Jaden Hasselwood, 7.6 out of Oklahoma. We'll scout his traits, and wow, A's across the board. I'm going to throw him on my board. Anybody else at wide receiver that I'd be interested in? Not really. Tight end, we could use a new tight end. Maybe Eric Gilbert, 7.4 out of Georgia. Another late first round talent. I think you will go 12-5 this year. Thank you. Hopefully we can hold on. But I'm not going to do too much scouting right now just because I'll have a whole scouting draft preview episode before the draft. But to recap, only going to go after one player. So let me go ahead and save it for now. We'll see if we can get D forward and see where some of the top players in the class go. So on to stage 2. All right, and we do get D Ford. So the one player I did want, we did bring in D Ford on the 1-year contract. So that kind of helps us out on the defensive line. Replaces Matthew Ioannidis a little bit. But in terms of the league, it looks like Quentin Nelson is going to Pittsburgh on a 3-year, $49 million contract. J.J. Watt going to Las Vegas on a 1-year, $16 million contract. Kareem Hunt to New England, 4 years, $29 million. Rodney Hudson, 1 year, $10 million to the Cardinals. Ioannidis also goes to the Cardinals. So Cardinals replace J.J. Watt with Matthew Ioannidis. He gets the 2-year, $18 million from Arizona. Mecole Hardman, 4 years, $48 million for the Lions. That adds him with Will Fuller. That should be a very imposing tandem. Darius Slay goes to Carolina on a 3-year, 30 deal. Jamal Dean to the Buccaneers. He goes back to Tampa. Murphy Bunting to the 49ers on a 3-year contract. Buccaneers also get Van Ginkel, but they didn't sign a quarterback. They also get Julian Love. So the Buccaneers really trying to load up their defense, knowing their offense isn't going to be very good. Gritty Williams, 2 years, 8.8 to the Panthers. I think that's a very good contract. Hopefully, could have gone after Gritty Williams. Mike Edwards goes to the Saints. Kingsley Kiki to the Cardinals. But nobody in our division really made a move. The highest player that went to our division was PJ Hall on a 1-year deal to the Giants. But still a lot of good players out there. Maybe we can see if we can take a couple of these. Quarterback-wise, Darnold now getting some interest from the Raiders. That makes sense. But keep in mind, the Raiders are going to go after Russell Wilson. So it's not like he's going to be the starter. But the Raiders and Buccaneers, 2 teams right now that need quarterbacks. Not surprised. Daniel Jones, could he be the replacement in Green Bay? Wouldn't that be something? Daniel Jones replaces Aaron Rodgers. Let's go to tight end again. And nobody else really looking at there. Nobody young. Who I'm kind of just looking for young players that I can kind of plug in. We do need some depth at left tackle. If there's any young players that fit the scheme. Not really. Jack Snyder. Maybe give him a 1-year contract. I'll bring back Trevor Penning on a 1-year deal just because. Maybe we can get him for cheap. Because I do like having that depth. Because once you get to the regular season, you got to sign these guys for like $1 million a year, and I'm okay with that. So we'll just throw him a contract. Honestly, it might be a little too high. Give him no guarantee money. How about that? Left guard. I think we're okay with left guard. Center. Could use a backup center. And is there anybody that's really... I'm going to wait on center. Guard, we're okay there now. Tackle, I'm okay there. Defensive ends, we did sign D Ford on the other side, but we could always use him. There he's D Ford. He's sitting at the top. Anybody else that's kind of younger who we can go after? Not really seeing anything. Khalid Kareem, 25 years old. He's got decent speed. He's kind of a one-trick pony. I think I'll pass there. I also need to save some cap just in case for the preseason. Defensive tackle with Tershawn Wharton, but he's getting some interest. I want somebody that doesn't have interest. Tristan, not for a 2-year contract. How about right end? We got some decent depth there. Left outside linebacker, I think we're okay with. Middle linebacker, we're okay with. Right outside. There's honestly not much moves that we really need to do. Is Collins getting interest? No, he's still not getting interest. So, once again, I'll hold out for him. But, then we have Blankenship and Tressway. But Tressway is getting older. Would actually be interested in going after a kicker or a punter. Not really for that kind of money. So, nothing here in stage 2 besides giving Trevor Penning a contract. And... we do get Trevor Penning, so we didn't bring back some depth there. Taking a look around the league. Any new moves? Zadarius Smith goes to the Texans, 3 years, 53. Anybody else? J.C. Treader goes to the Panthers, 1 year, 10. Bobby Wagner goes to the Giants. Okay, so we do got to play Bobby Wagner now, 2 years, $20 million. Alexander Madison goes to the Cardinals. Richardson to the Giants. Like I said, now the Giants starting to pick up some money, but no Cowboys or Eagles in terms of signings yet. And not really. Did anybody of the quarterbacks go anywhere? Okay, Darnold goes to the Raiders on a 3-year deal worth $35 million. That's a lot of money, but remember they're also going to get Russell Wilson. I might edit his contract a little bit. I don't like to do that, but I know they don't have Wilson on the roster, and if they had Russell Wilson, they probably wouldn't have given him that big of a deal, and I doubt Darnold would get a lot of interest anywhere else, so might edit that contract a little bit. Daniel Jones is going to the Packers, so there's your Danny Dimes replaces Aaron Rodgers. I think it's a pretty lateral move if you're the Green Bay Packers. Jarrett Stidham goes to Tampa Bay, and just like when Brady left New England, Stidham, is he going to be the replacement? he gets a second chance. Rudolph to the Chiefs, but nothing really there. Stafford's still a free agent. Jimmy Garoppolo now gets some interest from the Bucs. I was actually waiting on that to happen. And Drew Lock getting some interest from the Giants, but I don't think there's anybody I really want to target. So we are going to go ahead and advance a stage. Pretty good offseason. Appreciate it. I know it hasn't been like a ton of fireworks other than the quarterback switch, but we're kind of strapped for cap. So a lot of it was holding on to who we wanted to hold on. But we simulate to the final week. And any other big names? Kyle Fuller goes back to Chicago on a 1-year deal after bouncing around last season. And Darius Williams to the Rams. And that kind of does it. Some still good free agents available. Juan Thornhill's a free agent. Josh Lambo, Bryce Callahan, Calais Campbell. A lot of specialists, though. But some players we might be able to poke at is Landon Collins is still available. So we'll see if we can bring back Landon Collins later. But that basically does it for the free agency recap. Let's take a look at our roster real quick. Not a bunch of turnover, but we did bring in Derek Carr. That was the big one. So a new quarterback, halfback, Antonio Gibson still there. We do have Kyron Williams as well, the guy who we drafted last year, and I do want to get him more involved. Yes, Gibson had 500 carries last year. That's not really realistic. So I do want to limit his workload a lot. And we did draft Kyron Williams last year from Notre Dame pretty early. So I'd like to see him get involved. He's a pretty good change of pace back. So expect to see a little bit more of him this year. Wide receiver, we have Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and Zay Flowers for now, but there are a couple wide receivers we're targeting. Logan Thomas is the tight end. Left tackle, Donovan Smith. Didn't really get a replacement here. Maybe we can look to the draft or something, but we do have a hole at left tackle still. Left guard is still Eric Flowers for now. Center, Chase Roulier. Right guard, Brandon Scherf, but we do have Emile Eckhardt Jr. who can fill in. Right tackle, Mitchell Schwartz. Sam Cosmes has some experience as a backup. Left in, we did lose Matthew Ioannidis, so we did lose a pretty big hole there, but we do have D Ford, who I think is a pretty solid plug-in for this season. He has good speed. He can rush the passer. He's going to definitely hurt a little bit in the run game, but I'm excited for D Ford. We do have Jonathan Allen still, probably the best interior D lineman. Duron Payne comes back on a 3-year contract, gave him the big bucks, as here's what his contract now looks like. Pretty steep price to pay, but he's 26. I think he adds a lot, even if he doesn't stuff the stat sheet. We got Montez Sweat on the outside still. Oh, and forgot to show this earlier. Sweat actually lost his superstar dev, so he's back down to star dev. So that does kind of hurt a little bit, but I'm still feel pretty good with Montez Sweat. I think the year and a half that he did have superstar dev, that really helped his development, and he's now a top 10 left outside linebacker. We got Jamin Davis and DeMarvion Overshown in the middle. I like that combination. Very young. Right outside linebacker, Chase Young. Cornerback, Kendall Fuller, who's now a superstar. William Jackson III. Trey Herndon in the slot. Very, very good. Free safety, Cameron Curl. Very underrated. And strong safety, Derek Forrest. So no Landon Collins anymore. Derek Forrest gets a shot there. And we have Blankenship, Tress Way. And we have every round and an extra first, but we did trade our first next year. So that is what the team looks like going into the draft. Now, not a long offseason, not a lot to really go over in terms of our team, but there were some big moves. There was Aaron Rodgers retiring, Tom Brady retiring. We traded for the new quarterback. And we saw some key players go elsewhere like Quentin Nelson and stuff. But that's going to do it for the Offseason Free Agency live stream. I appreciate you guys all who stopped by. It was good to be able to talk to you guys. Your support means a lot. This will be going up shortly on YouTube after this ends, but I'm going to add a couple of things to the recap. So be on the lookout for the recap early next week. That'll probably be coming to you guys either Tuesday or Wednesday. I have a couple of other big moves in terms of around the league that I'm going to do as well, especially trading Russell Wilson to the Raiders. But stay tuned for that. And also be on the lookout for Cubs next week. We're going to finish the month of April and get in. You still coming to OFL at 5? That is the plan. I do plan on being there. But hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. If you haven't and you're still in the stream, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss any Toronto Thunderbirds action. I appreciate you guys' support. But I'm excited for year 3. I'm excited for the Super Bowl title defense. I'm excited to see who you can draft next week. But thank you guys so much for watching. This is Mr. Rob, and I'll see you in the next one.